Welcome to part 3 of this tutorial on being a language assistant. In parts 1 and 2 we covered meeting the teachers and the students and planning. So with this knowledge, part 3, the actual teaching side of the job, should be very easy. In this part we will cover a pre-class ritual, asking questions, what not to do when asking questions, making corrections, and managing your students and your time. So, pre-class ritual. Before the students arrive to class, make sure you get into the zone. Whether this is by stretching, listening to some music that you like, or my personal favorite, power poses. Get into the right headspace. Many studies have shown that in the right headspace, not only are you more likely to complete the task, but you're also more likely to complete the task to a higher standard. If this is the first time teaching, I could not recommend this more. Next, questions. You're going to be asking a lot of them. However, don't forget to stop and ask if the students have questions throughout the lesson. This is all contributing to making dialogue. If the students are asking questions, it shows that they're engaged and they're thinking. Now, you can answer the question, or you can see if another student can answer the question for you. This is all contributing to making more and more dialogue. Now, problems when it comes to asking questions. A very bad habit to get into is asking double questions. This is when you ask a question, and before the student had the chance to respond, you ask him with another question that you may have rethought it in your mind, or you may add some extra information to it. This is a very bad habit to get into. Make sure you ask one question, and when the student has answered, ask the second one. Another bad habit is asking broad questions, such as, how does that make you feel? Or, what do you think about that? These questions are hard to answer concisely, and more often than not, you're only going to get a one-word answer. Make sure you have concise questions and you will have concise answers. Maybe prepare questions before the lesson. If you do feel this urge to ask one of these broad questions, try to narrow it down with something like, as a French citizen, how does that make you feel? Or, as a young adult, what do you think about that? Next, making corrections. This is important for the improvement of the student's language. This isn't unkind or being a mean teacher. The thing to remember is the way you go about it. Make sure you make it more encouraging rather than condescending. If the student makes a mistake, just help him out with the word. You don't need to interrupt the whole class and make sure they get the question right, get the sentence right. It's all about just being aware of the students and being aware of their feelings. Also, be aware of the mistakes they're making. If the mistakes are recurring, this may be an area you should focus on. Next, managing time. What I mean by this is, if your lesson is 50 minutes, minus the time it takes for the class to get settled, minus the time it takes for you to speak your portion of the class, you may have 30 minutes remaining. If you have 15 students in your class, that means there's 2 minutes for each student to contribute. Aim to get each student contributing his or her 2 minutes of contribution. Now this brings me on to managing students. You will find that some students are more confident in English. Also, some students are more timid and aren't contributing as much. When the opportunity is right, approach the students. This may be before or after class. To the ones that are more dominant, just explain. Each student needs to contribute equally, and they need to take a few steps back. To the students that are more timid, encourage them to contribute. Now again, I mentioned knowing names is important. If you know the names in this situation, this is how you're going to personally address the issue. Being abroad, you're going to have days when you're just not feeling it. You may be running late, you may have left your umbrella on the train, and it's raining. If you're doubting yourself, it's only going to make the day harder. The best thing to do is find some personal time for yourself, take a few deep breaths, come back to the here and now, and finish the day. Know that not only does this happen to every teacher, but this happens to everybody. Whether you need just a chat or a hug, always remember those back home. Never let the situation get to the point where it's affecting this awesome overseas experience that you're meant to be having. To conclude, I'd like to say that you're not an ordinary teacher, and it is important to experiment and find your unique teaching style. You're having an awesome experience. You're going to grow as a person, you're going to find new skills that are going to last with you for the rest of your life. Remember to listen and learn from the teachers. Listen and learn from the students. Listen and learn from the people that you meet along the way. And most of all, enjoy the journey.